Aloha. So I want to talk about something that I kind of haven't touched on enough, I guess, and that's updates to your setup that won't break the bank but work with just about any setup, whether it's a high end or low end. These are nice things that to add on that you probably already have, hardware wise. So hardware wise, these are just tablets, nothing fancy. This is an iPad Air 2. This over here is a Samsung something something. It's an older tablet. On the Air 2, I am running Flight Plan Go. The software can be found in the Android store and the Apple store. Flightplan.com, FLTPLAN.com is where Flight Plan Go actually has the patch that you need. There's a bit of software that has to run on the main computer to allow Microsoft Flight Simulator to talk to your tablet. And you also need FSU IPC7. But once you have that and you set it up, as long as they're on the same Wi-Fi network, GPS data from Microsoft Flight Simulator will get sent over to the tablet. Excuse me. You can build flight plans in here. You can add waypoints. It's got a lot of functionality, and the thing about it that I love the most, again, it's free. You know, you could go and spend, 10, 15, 20 bucks a month on ForeFlight, but if you're not a pilot in real life, if you're not using this as a tool as part of your job, is it worth spending that kind of money every month if it's just something you like to do? Some people will say yes to that, and there's nothing wrong with that, but for me, I use that money in other places. So having an electronic flight bag that's affordable for me is pretty awesome, and free is pretty affordable. And it also works over here, and I'll bring it up on Android real quick. Now, it looks a little different on Android, same functionality. So it's kind of nice that you get the same functionality between the two, whether you've got an Android tablet or you've got an Apple tablet. Now this over here that I just switched to, this is called FS Radio Panel. This is Android unique. This is only on Android. And what you can see here, and it's not set up, I don't have MSFS running right now. I can bring the radio panels out, COM1, COM2, NAV1, NAV2, ADF, transponder. That's just one screen. I can also go over to the Sage SI and an autopilot down here. I can come over to here for PFD. I actually have an autopilot now that looks more like something off of an airliner. Then we get into a moving map display, and it actually has your flight plan built in. Then I can get into a switch panel, slant, flaps, landing gear, and the flight planner. This is about $9 or $10, but if you already own an Android tablet, holy crap, right? I mean, you could have this level of functionality and not be hunting around your cockpit to get to things with your mouse. That's kind of a thing I don't like to do in the game. I don't like to sit there with my mouse and have to look for everything. So for me, anything I can do to bring controls off the display and in front of me, I kind of like. And that brings me over to here to Air Manager. Now this is Air Manager, and with Air Manager, you get the ability to model the avionics from the aircraft and some of the switches even. And you're not hunting around the cockpit for them, which is nice. This is just a Cessna right here, but I could also bring up this Piper. Now the cool thing here is the Piper doesn't exist in Air Manager, but you can build it. You can actually go in and say, I want this airspeed indicator, I want this turn indicator, I want this altimeter, and bring them in and build your own custom six-pack. You can bring in your own fuel gauges, your own tack, your own everything. You can bring them over, and it will talk to your PC as long as they are on the same network. It works really well. And again, this works on both Android and Apple. And the size of the screen, I'm showing it to you on a used iPad Pro 12.9 inch. This is the first generation Pro, and I bought it for about 110, 120 bucks. but you don't have to have it on a bigger tablet. You can run it on a smaller tablet. Here it is on the smaller tablet. The smaller tablet, the switches are going to be smaller. You know, it's going to be a little harder to interface with, but you still get the same functionality. So you don't have to have any certain type of tablet between Flight Plan Go or Air Manager. They're both pretty awesome for that. And the last thing I want to talk about kind of goes back to something I mentioned in one of the first videos I did. When I was talking about the budget cockpit, I mentioned a certain joystick and how it's kind of a good platform to start, and it can help you build for the future. So the starting part is, number one, it's inexpensive. This joystick was $29.95. The building for the future part comes in because this joystick has functionality that might hold you over. So let's say you didn't want to buy rudder pedals right away. This is your rudder. What if you don't want to buy rudder pedals, or you don't have room for them? Like, let's say you're somebody who, you're a younger kid, or you're in college, or you're somewhere that you have limited space in your apartment or your room, and you can't get the rudder pedals. Well, you don't need them. This can help. The other thing this can help with is throttle. It has a built-in throttle. Now, I'm not a fan of this throttle, but however, it's got one. And if you're in a position where you're a kid or you're somebody who you don't have the space, it's a good option. It's also got buttons on the side that are programmable. So in Microsoft Flight Simulator, you can bring in your flaps, your landing gear, your parking brake, fuel cutoff, you name it. You can program these buttons. Now for me, I also added this clamp on the front, and I have C-clamps holding on a flight yoke to my desk. I can swap these out and it takes 2 minutes. And then I've got, this is my main flight control. So for me, it does well. It does everything I need. And I could have stopped from, from putting rudder pedals on my system, but I already had rudder pedals, so I threw them on anyways. But I didn't need to, thanks to that functionality. But I did want to point those things out because I was remiss. I didn't talk about them, and I didn't talk enough about the software. Now, one quirk, though, and here's one reason why maybe you might still opt to use Air Manager with the main system, like actually add a second monitor. And I'm going to move this so I can show it to you. Now, both of these are set up at, well, that one is set up as a Cessna right now, so let's bring us back to Cessna. Here we are as a Cessna. Well, what you can't do in here, that you can easily do in here, is the pop-outs. So on this Air Manager, which is the actual Air Manager full-blown software, second monitor from a PC, I can bring in that GPS display. And I can put it in, and I can interact with that GPS display. I can't do that on the tablet. It won't let me bring it over. So if you want that display level functionality, you got to go a little further. But the tablets are awesome because they allow you to do things with hardware you probably already have. And some of this functionality, again, Flight Plan Go, for example, if you don't have a tablet handy, you probably have a smartphone. Most of us have smartphones. You can use Flight Plan Go with your smartphone. So you could actually flight plan on your smartphone, have it handy while you're flying in the cockpit, and now you don't have to bring up that map display in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Use your own, and it'll tell you when to turn. It'll tell you where to turn to. So they're just little add-ons that kind of add a little bit extra to the game, and they don't cost a lot. So they're inexpensive things I wanted to throw out there that I just don't think I talked about enough before. I hope that helps somebody. If you got questions on the software, go ahead and ask. I'll tell you how it's working for me. Sometimes it works great. Sometimes it's a little quirky. But I'll let you know what I find or what I've found so far. But again, thanks for watching. I hope this helps somebody. And, stay safe. And as always, happy flying out there.